This is our foundational health class, a little lunch and learn for holistic water solutions. So we're going to be talking more about your water, which is an essential nutrient for your health. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Dr. Steele. I am a holistic doctor in family practice. I hold 7 degrees in my field, all in the natural healthcare space. I like to say I went to school so you don't have to. So this is just a level 1 class, and really it's about understanding water as a core human need. Really good for public health policy, but also just for beginners looking for practical advice. I propose that this webinar probably isn't going to be longer than 45 minutes, definitely no longer than an hour. Sometimes I don't know because sometimes I get impassioned into it, but it will have the time on the recording for you. And really this is about, again, public health policy, awareness, safety, and really personal empowerment, because we're at a time, unprecedented time in public health, where we can't always depend on all of our regulatory bodies to ensure that we are healthy. And with various environmental deregulations, we really want to make sure that we are covering our basis. So this is the purpose of this class. It's kind of split up. Each slide is set up as a module. So we'll start into why water is foundational and understanding why the body needs water and the purpose of it. We will look deeper at the modern water reality, which I alluded to. We'll talk about how to test your water, different water filtration, basic system. Again, I'm pretty agnostic. I am going to teach more just so that you have a basic understanding. Dehydration and what that looks like and feels like, how much water you should drink, indications, which are needs for water, contraindications, which are ways that you want to be mindful of your water usage. And then we'll look at daily integration, so you leave with some basic steps. So let's jump in. Okay, so water, think of water as like transportation. So water is really going to move nutrients and toxins through the cell wall. It hydrates the body, provides that nutrient to the cell, and it also is responsible for blood volume, circulation, temperature regulation as well. Notice when you're really hot and flushed, you drink some water, it cools you down, even if that water is room temperature. So hydration affects literally every bodily system. It's not an optional thing, it's infrastructure. Again, just as like the roads need power lines and the lines on the street, the same thing, the water, the body really needs this water. So it is a foundational element. Remember, it's 2 hydrogens to 1 oxygen, and every single cell depends on having that. So water is essential. I typically will have patients first start before they do anything, before they put a supplement in their mouth, before they think about anything with their food, to start with their water. Water is a great source for it being a habit. And so you can be consistent, deliberate, over an extended period of time, just simply with water. You can notice really good improvements, because so often we overlook those small things, and water is not a small thing, but it's actually a foundational thing. So looking at the modern water reality, I don't have all of the current alerts, but I will give you the information so you can ensure that you check your water in your local area. So there is various environmental deregulations in favor for corporations. There are also lots of different environmental risk factors, more building, more, wartime building, things, like ships and those sorts of things. Anything really in industry, oil, all of those things are very toxic to the environment. And if they're not proper and appropriate checks and balances in place, to ensure that water safety is a priority, then it becomes a problem and can become a health risk factor. So I really want to make sure that, as there's there's such environmental deregulation and just a lack of oversight, that we put that hands back in to your that control back into your hands, so that you can make empowered decisions. And so there are lots of common contaminants found in water. Lead, phthalates is also another one. A lot of can be found in water. So it's important, and it also just depends on where you're located. One area will have chlorine in it, chloramine, heavy metals, chemicals, so it's important for you to know where your locality is, because each locality has its own central filtering, and then various different environmental and civic issues going on with those areas. So, just because your water is clear and colorless, unfortunately, does not mean it's safety and healthy. And, there's also a distinction between your municipality, which is going to filter out, versus your well water, which normally is tapped in to a natural water source. So there is a distinction there. So just because you have access to water doesn't always mean that the water is safe. I was a long time ago, when I was going through various trainings, I learned that we get over 50% of our water just from our showers, which was shocking to me. But thinking about that, we're absorbing, our pores are open. And so a lot of various skin conditions had a lot to do with the water and lack of proper shower filtration. So this is where we accumulate the data. If you followed my work at all, I'm very data centric. And so we want to look at resources. I find that ewg.org has great resources in terms of really organized well for you. So you can go in, put in your zip code, and it will pull up exactly the information that you need about your local water municipality. So that's the only place I found that's kind of centralized all of the water system, specifically in the United States. So if you're in another country, you'll have to check in with whoever does your water. So whoever is providing your water, whoever you're paying your water bill to, those sorts of clues can really help you, because it's important to understand what is in your water, because ultimately what's in your water is going to end up in your body if you're not careful. So we want to make sure that that's good. Okay, so obviously our next logical point is how to test our water. So first things first, like I said, with ewg.org, that you can type in your zip code. They'll have local water municipality reports. You can go on the local level if you're in the US, and you can go into your local city government, and usually under the water company, they will have their testing reports, and they're pretty dry reports. A lot of them will have charts and graphs and all sorts of things in there. You can, throw them into, whatever your favorite search engine to summarize that. But I like, again, EWG's format. It just kind of lays it out for you really, really easy. From there, I tend to recommend an at-home test initially, just to kind of get more comfortable with water testing. Obviously, if you find irregularities or you find things that you're suspicious with, then the natural next step would be to call a professional. But I always like to kind of have you at a more hands-on level, especially too, because a lot of times, the cost differential, it is, much more affordable to, let's say, purchase, an at-home test, that you can pick up at your drugstore or someplace online, and, test your water and maybe invest, let's say, $50, $100, something like that, rather than a company that's going to come out and do an assessment. Now, a lot of companies will do a free assessment for you to come out. And if you own your home, I really recommend you do a whole house unit. It's so much cheaper, affordable, because it'll cover all your showers, it'll cover your cooking water, your cleaning water, all of that. And then there's different options when it comes to filtering, which we'll get into. So if you, again, find some irregularities, so when you're testing your water at home, make sure you don't just test once. You maybe test, a few times during the week in various different times, just to catch, some different water purities perhaps, and see if there's some consistencies with that. If there's inconsistencies or naturally you find something in the test that's problematic, then your next step would be more of a lab-based test. Now, I think there are some direct-to-consumer companies. I'll have to look it up. If you're interested, let me know. I'll drop some links. But, really most of the time you'll have a local water representative. You can look up online, local water filtration companies, and a lot of times you can pick it up and they'll have somebody that can come out to your house, test your water, go through all that. Of course, if you're renting, you can work with your landlord or somebody like that. Now, naturally, a lot of landlords get really testy when you're talking about testing your water. Oftentimes when I would rent, I've rented for a long time, I would just go ahead and filter the water anyway, shower, and then in under the sink or over the counter unit, which we'll talk about. So yeah, definitely be mindful of when you go into the lab testing, because that's obviously a greater expense, greater investment typically. Places to test are definitely wells, because the impurities, you never know. New homes, because a lot of times those toxins can leak in, and you're really not aware of where your water is sourced. If you have any symptoms, and then obviously if there's any kind of infrastructure changes in your home. Older homes too, you want to be mindful. A lot of times they'll have, different pipes that are not healthy. Sometimes they haven't been changed out depending on how old they are. So the first thing is just to really kind of assess where your water levels are at. And again, I would take a few different locations in your house too, not just maybe one, but getting the shower, getting the cooking water, getting the drinking water, that sort of thing. So you want to catch all of them. All right. So let's see. Let me make sure I got that. Okay, I think so. Yes. Okay. So water filtration basics. Oh, hold on. Water filtration basics. So I kind of started alluding to these. So there's different types of water filters. Again, they have whole house units that they hook up on the water, and it filters everything in the house. There are different filters you have to change, either 1 year, 3 year, 5 year. Once you get the water filter for your home, they install it, they'll kind of go through the different options for that. Like I was saying, there is an under-the-counter unit. So a lot of times, you can hook something up to your water system, like some sort of filtration, etc. Those are really, sleek, elegant. But again, you want to make sure that it's filtering out what's in your test results. So like, for instance, sometimes they'll filter out chlorine, but they won't filter out the chloramine. So just make sure that you're getting all of the different chemicals, heavy metals, etc., that your filter matches. And we'll talk about the different filter options. They then have the tabletop units. So those can be plugged into your water system, or they can be just like a Berkey where it just sits on top and then you pour water in. Those are a lot of times with carbon filters. Those are really good for chlorine, organic compounds or VOCs, and taste improvements. They're super affordable. They can run a couple $100, so a great place to start if you're just getting into water filtration. They also have gravity filters that don't have any electricity. Those are typically more portable. They work with more on the bacterial and parasitic level. They're really more for off the grid. So if you're camping, hiking, etc., those are those things you can kind of stick into a creek sort of thing and filter it out. Now, again, it's not going to filter out heavy metals, chemicals, and all of that. So know what you're filtering out. A really popular option is the reverse osmosis. The reverse osmosis, it does pull out most of the contaminants, including heavy metals, fluoride, etc., but it does require remineralization. So make sure that if you go with a reverse osmosis option, that you go through remineralization of your water as well. That is key to ensure that you have the fresh, clean minerals in there. You can also purchase your water as well from a water company. They can deliver it. I have done that for many, many years, especially when I don't want to commit to something, major that I have to deal with. Plus, too, usually you can send the supplies back, which makes it easy. They also have, you can buy the base units that do reverse osmosis as well. I purchased some of those as well. I've spent anywhere from $50 a month to thousands of dollars for, water filtration devices. You don't have to be super fancy in the beginning. Again, I didn't start at spending thousands of dollars. I started with like $50, and filtering my water, learning about my water, and then starting to consume more water. So again, this is not to overwhelm. This is meant to be a resource that you can come back to. And of course, we have a clean water guide to get you started below. So why do I even, a water class seems like a lot, but believe it or not, a lot of people struggle with dehydration and they're not aware of it. So dehydration is more than just a thirst because again, water is biology. It moves toxins, it moves nutrients across the cell wall, and your body needs it. Imagine if you're dehydrated, you're going to be really, really sluggish. What does your immune system do? What does your blood do? What your digestive system does? Everything kind of grids to a halt because it's dry. So those early dehydration signs tend to be fatigue, difficulty concentrating, a mild headache, darker urine, dry lips, decreased energy. And oftentimes people kind of brush it off. They go, oh, it's just stress or lack of sleep, when really it's chronic dehydration. So definitely make sure you're drinking half your body weight in ounces of water every single day. There are water calculators online in case you're, let's say, working out more, or you're doing more activities that are going to require water, or you're on a medication or something like that requires a reduced amount of water. So we'll get into that later on. Later dehydration signs include increased thirst, dizziness, rapid heartbeat. That's a really common palpitations. Patients will really get scared and think it's a heart attack. A lot of times when they have a heart palpitation, that's why first things first, when you have any kind of heart palpitation, unless they're shooting down the arm, make sure you consume some water first and foremost. Put a little bit of pink Himalayan sea salt in there to get some minerals. Magnesium is also helpful, but dehydration is quite common for triggering that. Confusion and very dark urine, that indicates a fluid deficit. So again, you really need to repair, just like driving your car around with no gas. Eventually you're getting to the bottom of the gas tank and all that sludge there. Many symptoms, again, often are dismissed when actually it's dehydration in disguise. So this is why we, aside from nervous system and mindset, we do start physically with water and getting people into the habit of drinking water, because many symptoms can resolve themselves just with consistently drinking enough water and making sure you're tracking that. So often people are not conscious of their water drinking and they just kind of throw it off. And so they become dehydrated without even realizing it. So how much water do you drink? So it's not a clear cut and dry answer, even though I said half your body weight in ounces in water. That's standard. However, there are individual factors such as your body size, the climate you're in. Like here in St. Lucia, I have to drink a lot more water than I did. And I do really, really well with coconut water because it keeps my system hydrated. It seems like I lose water so quickly. Your physical activity, health conditions, any medications that you're on can also impact your water. Stress levels as well also influence. So keep that in mind. Even though we start with a rule of thumb, half your body weight, there may be some things that shift. Your urine color is also a really good indicator. I every time I urinate during the day, I always check to make sure that it's trending in the right direction. So it may start off really dark in the morning because, I've been building and detoxing all night. And so now I'm I'm excreting, so I'm drinking more water. So we want it to be nice, a nice color. In my Intro to Holistic Medicine 2 class and detoxification, we get all into that to be able to assess if you're interested in that. Also to sipping versus chugging. So we definitely don't want to chug a whole bunch of water. You can get sick, you can throw up, it can be just too much on your system. A lot of times what we'll do is I'll drink 1, maybe 2 first thing when I wake up, and then I'm drinking throughout the day in between meals. And so that keeps it. If you get a container, making this easier, not harder for you, but if you get a container, let's say that's 32 ounces or 24 ounces or 16 ounces, I wouldn't go below that, but let's say 16, 24, 32 ounces, I know, okay, if I get a 32 ounce, I need to make sure that I drink 2 of those in a day, and I'll get more than half my body weight in ounces of water, so I'm good, right? So I don't need to, stress about it. I know, I just need to drink this down and then fill it right back up. Same thing with the 24, same thing with the 16. So you would just divide by how much water you drink by the container that you have. Using that same container, that way by the end of the day, you know how much you drank without a whole lot of effort and a whole lot of mind space. So naturally, for any healthcare treatment, regardless what it is, there's indications and contraindications. So indications where an increase in water is definitely going to help. Hypertension is one of those. Number one cause of hypertension is dehydration. So that is really important for people that have hypertension to get enough fluid in them. Physical activity and athletic performance, water, especially with electrolytes to really help replenish. Hot weather, and increased perspiration. So if you're sweating more, if it's humid more, if it's hot more, naturally you're going to be excreting more. So you need to replace that. If you have a fever, naturally your body's spiking fever, you're getting an internal heat. So, sorry about that. There's a truck going by. So that's an internal heat. So you want to make sure that, you're, again, replenishing and cooling your internal organs, especially with fever spikes and things like that. Constipation, so you can't move your bowels unless you have adequate amounts of fluid. If you have gassing, bloating, excellent place to look first is your water, making sure that you have enough. And then kidney stone prevention, again, making sure that you have lots of fluids in your body to be able to filter out, and you're giving, your kidneys what it needs. So those are some of the reasons why you may need some water, but let's talk about some of the reasons why water, maybe drinking too much water may cause harm. So heart failure, kidney disease, because you're drinking that much water, you probably cannot filter as quickly. So really having to take a very measured approach. Lots of sipping, definitely no chugging, please. Your low sodium risk as well, if you chronically have sodium, because more hydration is going to flush more sodium out of the body. So you want to be mindful of that. And speaking of which, your fluid balance. So there are a lot of medications, even like blood pressure medications, that are that work on your sodium potassium channels, and so that can influence your hydration, and vice versa. Your hydration can influence the medication and how the medication is operating. So definitely make sure that you check in with yourself, with your doctor, to make sure that you don't have to abbreviate any of your water drinking for whatever reason. And then intense exercise again, but without electrolytes. So once you've been really, also to a fever, that's why they say, drink Gatorade. Although I don't recommend drinking Gatorade, you could do the same thing with some lemon, with some pink Himalayan sea salt, with a little bit of apple cider vinegar in the water. You can make your own electrolyte. And so making sure you replenish, because those cells really need it. So again, you want to just be mindful. The more that you drink water, the more you are going to typically go to the bathroom, but your body will settle down into a pace. Initially, your body's just trying to evacuate, especially if you've been dehydrated for too long. That can be a challenge. All right. Okay, so, and we're buzzing through, so we should probably be done in the next few minutes. So probably a quick 30-minute webinar, but let's talk about daily integration. So that information is great. Okay, I know I need to test my water. I know I need to get filter for my water. I know that the importance of water. I know water's indicated for me. I know how much water I need to drink. How am I going to do this practically? So again, first thing in the morning, start your day before coffee, before food. Make sure you have a glass, 24 or 32 ounce if you can handle it. If you're just starting out, 16 is totally fine. I wouldn't go below that, but unless you're a child, so, get the water in your body. First thing, get your mouth kind of tasting the water and then calling for it. There are some really good like by your bed units that you can hook up to like a 5-gallon jug. I've seen them all over. They're really cool. Also too, now you set the tone, then you drink your coffee, you drink your, you eat your food, whatever. Know that if you drink coffee or any sort of energy drink or anything like that, it is going to deplete your water. So you do need to replace it with 2 cups. So that's 2 8-ounce cups. So if I drink 1 cup of coffee, I need to replace it with those 2 cups of water because I've dehydrated myself. Also, I'm going to not drink with my meals, but I'm going to drink 30 minutes before or about an hour to 2 after drinking. So I'm going to or after eating, sorry. So I'm going to put my water in between. First thing in the morning, coffee, food. Then I'm going to let my stomach digest. Then I'm going to be sipping water throughout the day, have my snack, let it digest, sip. So, it's technically up to 1 to 2 hours, but again, I'll throw some lemon in there, apple cider vinegar in my water, which will help my digestion along with the food that I'm doing. Again, adjust for stress, adjust for heat. So increase during stressful periods of time, during hot weather, if you're working out more, all of those things will change the dynamic. And naturally, if your body's craving it, regardless, just give it to it. Simple hydration routines, you want to set up some reminders. So again, if you're kind of a forgetful person, I like to do 2 32 ounces. I've got maybe 1 in the fridge and 1 in front of me. I have to visually see it. I also set up cues for myself. So if a patient's talking, I'm going to be drinking, or, I'm going to set up an alarm on my phone, or, in between tasks. So set up some sort of mindset tracking. If you download our app and our 30-day water reset, it will alert you every day to make sure you're recording your water. That way you're more mindful to what you're drinking and why you're drinking it and all of that. So just small, consistent changes. It doesn't have to be anything super big. So hopefully now you are more aware of water, its role. Remember, this is just level 1, so we didn't get into all of the different chemicals and all of that. We'll talk about that in level 2. I just wanted to kind of help you to be more aware, more educated about water and about what's going on with our water supply, making sure that you are educated, making sure that you understand safety, knowledge of testing methods, filtration options, and quality standards to make sure that your health is not at risk and water is not a hazard, especially again with environmental deregulation. Very important to make sure that you check these things. Also, too, I wanted to provide a clear, actionable strategy for you to test, filter, etc. Down below, I have a clean water guide you can download. And again, it's about being confident, not being afraid. I don't want you to feel like, oh my God, there's all these things in my water. There probably is, but the body is resilient and the body can heal. And so even the process of testing, and it's not to be afraid, it's to educate yourself so that you can make some changes and put some things in place so that it doesn't become a problem later on down the road. A lot of times we're unconscious to things like water, food sourcing, etc., and then we wonder why our bodies break down over time. All right, so getting started, your hydration journey. So the easiest way and the way that I coach my patients through this is just observe your comfortable baseline. So let's say your comfortable baseline is 16 ounces a day. You drink 16 ounces a day without even thinking about it. Yes, that's super low. However, that's your baseline. That's where you are. And then you want to set a realistic goal. So I tend to find that adding 4 ounces a day is realistic. So I'm going to start comfortably at my 16 ounces, and then I'm going to stretch to make sure I hit 20 ounces tomorrow. So I'm going to now be confident and self-aware of where I'm at, and I'm just going to add to it, right? And so as long as it's comfortable, as long as I get it done and accomplished for the day, then I can move on to 24 and then 28 and then 32 and all of that, right? Let's say if I miss a day, if I forget to track, I start back in on the first day. And so it helps me to kind of be balanced. And so again, if I get off track, I just come back to that rhythm. Instead of going in and chugging water again, I go, oh, I brought my awareness right back to my water again. Okay, what am I drinking comfortably? Okay, 32 ounces, great, perfect. So I'm going to do 34, and then I'm going to do, 38, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just a really good way that I have found to build a hydration habit. Also structuring it in your day. First thing in the morning, in between meals, towards the end of the day, right before bed. Some people cannot drink right before bed. Some people will need to cut it off, 4 hours ahead of bed just so that they're not filtering out. So don't feel so boxed in that, oh my gosh, I only got 30 minutes before a meal, not an hour or two after a meal. It's okay. The body will adapt. So even if you do like 30 and 30 minutes before, 30 minutes after my meal, I'm not going to drink. That's your highest digestion time, where all those enzymes are breaking down. So you should be pretty much in the clear. Of course, people have slower transit times, but that's a good rule of thumb. And if you've taken nothing away from this, it's really to be proactive instead of reactive by choosing testing. Remember, we don't guess, we test. So understanding what's in your water, what you need to filter out, and why. Again, awg.org is a great resource. I also have a free clean water guide underneath. And then just tune in, keep assessing, keep monitoring, keep paying attention, especially to your local news, your local water municipality, maybe putting them on some sort of favorites, and just checking them once a month because they will also release advisory. I've seen different areas that hit national news where there's advisory. There's pollutants that are either going into the water from storms or, building collapses or whatnot. I've seen some different things. I just didn't want to peg anything down in this particular one. All right. So your action plan for optimal hydration. So again, you can check your local water quality. I like ewg.org/tap water. They have lots and lots and lots of data for you, even data beyond just what's in your particular water, but also how that it can affect you, etc. Download our clean water guide down below, so you'll have an access to that. And then also too, if you want, we do have a plan on the app, Holistic Life app, where you can track your water every single day. It'll give you coaching around your water, so that'll be finalized should be by the end of the week. So I had a 21-day water detox that I'm revamping into a 30-day. So the link will be below as well if you want to sign up for that. It just gives you some daily coaching around your water and just gives you something that you can really focus on. So I'm so grateful I did it in 30 minutes. So good to go. I think because we broke it down. Next course or webinar rather, that I will be teaching will be Herbal Solutions. It's a foundational health class. And then also our first class for nervous system reset. So look out for the content for that. So wonderful. I am your host again, Dr. Steele. Super excited about educating you about all the things about your health that you need to know. And so let me know if you have any questions or comments regarding water and foundations